The rotors chopped the humid air above the Afghan valley, shaking the dust into spirals of golden brown. Inside the Black Hawk, the atmosphere was heavier than the air outside, blood smell, sweat, and silence. The team had been hit hard during a night raid gone wrong, and the medic, Chief Petty Officer Ryan Hale, was fighting the clock. His gloved hands were slick with crimson as he pressed gauze into the side of a Marine who'd taken a round near his ribs. "Hold on, brother, we're almost there," Hale muttered, voice tight, eyes never leaving the wound. The helicopter bucked as it lifted, banking hard toward the forward operating base. The pilot shouted over the comms, 2 mics out. Then, from the far side of the cabin, he heard a voice, weak but steady. "He's not going to make it if you don't clamp the artery now." Hale froze for half a second. It wasn't one of his men. It was a woman's voice. He turned, frowning behind his blood-streaked goggles. A female medic in army fatigues was kneeling next to another casualty, her hands calm and practiced as she tied off a tourniquet. Her uniform was dusty, her sleeve torn, but her focus was surgical. "I've got it," Hale said, almost defensive. But she was already beside him, slipping into the space like she'd been doing it all her life. "Then move your hand," she said, tone clipped but not unkind. He did. She clamped the artery with precision, almost instantly slowing the bleeding. The Marine's breathing steadied. Hale blinked, she hadn't hesitated once. Whoever she was, she wasn't standard army issue. The Black Hawk thudded onto the landing pad, the medics hauling stretchers out. Hale followed, barking orders, adrenaline masking the exhaustion. He turned to thank her, but she was already gone, walking toward the triage tent, shoulders squared, gait limping slightly. Later that night, Hale found her again, sitting under a dim light near the supply tent, cleaning her instruments with quiet focus. Her name patch read, Cross. Her sleeve bore the faded emblem of a unit he didn't recognize. "You were on that bird this morning," he said, stepping closer. She looked up, eyes gray-blue, calm but distant. "So were you, Chief." He nodded. "You saved that Marine. Nice work." She gave a small shrug. "That's what we do." Something in her tone made him pause. "You're with the 75th. "Used to be," she said softly. "Now I'm just passing through." He frowned. "Passing through where?" She didn't answer. Just went back to cleaning the blood from her forceps, methodical, detached. Over the next few days, Hale kept running into her, in the trauma tent, in the field, even at the makeshift mess hall. She never talked much, never lingered, but her skill was undeniable. She patched up wounds even senior surgeons hesitated on. Soldiers started calling her the ghost medic. Then came the mission that changed everything. A convoy hit an IED 30 miles east of the base. Casualties were heavy. Hale was on the first response bird. When they landed, the air was thick with smoke and screams. Vehicles were burning, ammo was cooking off, and dust choked the sky. Hale sprinted from one wounded man to another, his training guiding his every move. Then he saw her, Cross, kneeling beside a soldier whose legs were mangled, blood soaking the sand. She was applying pressure, but her own arm was bleeding badly, a deep shrapnel wound cutting through muscle. "Hey, you're hit," Hale shouted, sliding next to her. "I'm fine," she said, jaw tight. "You're not fine," he snapped. "Let me." "Keep pressure on him," she barked, cutting him off. Her voice cracked like thunder. Hale did as she said, holding his hands firm over the soldier's wound. Then, as he looked at her closer, he saw something that froze him too. The bone. On her right shoulder, beneath the torn fabric, was an emblem, a silver trident surrounded by a faded medical insignia. The seal emblem. His seal emblem. He blinked, thinking his mind was playing tricks in the chaos. But no, it was real. The same emblem he'd earned through Hell Week, through Bud-S, through years of combat. And yet, she was wearing it. He stared at her, confusion and disbelief twisting his gut. "Where did you get that?" he said. She didn't look up. "Not now." "No, I mean it, Lieutenant. Where the hell did you?" Her eyes finally met his. Cold, steady. "I didn't get it, Chief," she said quietly. "I earned it." Hale froze. 1,000 questions flashed through his head. Women weren't SEALs. Not officially. Not ever, at least, not the way he knew it. And yet, the way she moved, the way she worked under fire, it made sense. "Cross, who are you?" "Just a medic," she said. Then she stood, her face pale from blood loss. Help me get him on the litter. They loaded the wounded soldier onto the bird. Cross nearly collapsed as the engines roared, but she stayed upright, refusing morphine, refusing attention. Hale kept staring at the Trident, his heart pounding. Back at base, she disappeared again, vanished from the tent, her cot empty by dawn. The med logs said she'd been transferred. But no one knew where. 2 weeks later, Hale was summoned to a secure briefing with his commanding officer. Inside the dim-lit room, a colonel slid a classified folder across the table. "You worked with someone named Lieutenant Avery Cross," the colonel said. Hale nodded slowly. "Yeah, saved lives out there." She was. "Careful, Chief," the colonel interrupted. "That's a name you didn't hear. Officially, she doesn't exist." Hale frowned. "What do you mean, she doesn't exist?" The colonel sighed. "Operation Silent Echo. Black Unit. Prototype integration of special warfare medics. Cross was the only candidate to complete the SEAL pipeline under experimental clearance. Her file was sealed. She was embedded with Ranger and SEAL teams under a shadow designation." Hale sat back, stunned. "So she really was one of us." "She was more than that," the colonel said quietly. "She ran rescue ops no one will ever read about. Last month, her team went dark during extraction. You weren't supposed to see her emblem. That program's been buried since." Hale's throat went dry. "Is she alive?" The colonel closed the file. "We don't know." Hale stood slowly. The room felt smaller. "If she's out there, I'll find her." The colonel looked up. "That's not your mission, Chief." "It is now," Hale said. He walked out into the blinding sunlight, the desert wind hot against his face. Somewhere out there, in the silence between wars, a ghost medic was still bleeding, still saving lives no one would ever acknowledge. And though her name would never make the records, Hale knew one thing for sure: he'd seen the Trident, and it was real. Because courage doesn't need permission. It just bleeds quietly in the dark, doing what must be done. Silent and bleeding.